fans, welcome back to Room 237, and I'm back with another review, and this time of yet another Video Nasty. Now, recently, I did several 80s slasher films that happened to be Video Nasties, and that made me want to do some other Video Nasties that I hadn't talked about. And actually tonight, when I was going over my movies, trying to decide what to watch, what I hadn't talked about yet, I realized that here's a Video Nasty and some films associated with it that, are more modern than Video Nasties, but still highly controversial. And I was surprised to realize that I haven't talked about these yet. I could have swore I did way back when I went through my initial run through of controversial, extreme, disturbing, shocking films. But turns out I hadn't. And that is the films in the I Spit on Your Grave series. Now, I have all but the latest one, I Spit on Your Grave Deja Vu, which is the direct sequel to the original from 1978, which is the review that this video will be. I don't have the original sequel from 1985 called Savage Vengeance. I don't even know if that ever got an official release. But I do have the 2010 remake, the 2013 sequel, and whenever this came out, the 2015 third part in the reboot series. So yeah, the only one I don't have is Deja Vu. It's the only one I haven't seen other than the 80s one. But I'll probably pick up Deja Vu at some point. So this will be for the original 1978 rape revenge exploitation film, cult classic, Video Nasty, I Spit on Your Grave. And yeah, this has all the hallmarks of a classic controversial film. I mean, it's a Video Nasty, it's a rape revenge, it's exploitation. Probably the biggest title in the rape revenge genre, next to Last House on the Left. And I would probably have to say, as a movie, I like this more than Last House on the Left. I mean, I would say I like how Wes Craven filmed the way the assault and death originally, or the initial act. I like how that's filmed, and I like the sound effects of the score. Whereas this does not have a score at all, which I think helps add to the realism and the atmosphere of the film. I'm not sure how many different releases, at least on DVD, that this has, but this is the one that has the commentary with Joe Bob Briggs, so that's pretty cool. Now, this was written and directed by Meir Zarchi, who I looked up what else he's done, and I think he's really only associated with this entire series. I mean, he wrote and directed this. He served as executive producers on these, wrote and directed Deja Vu, and he directed one other film called Don't Mess With My Sister, which I think is like a drama from the 80s. He was married, I think, at the time that this was written, but he would go on to marry the star Camille Keaton in this. This is not Camille Keaton. Apparently, this is famous actress Demi Moore. Apparently, she posed for this. And I would say I do like the original poster more, which is the same picture, but the layout of the original poster I like more. And its original title was Day of the Woman, as this says, and it actually wasn't called I Spit on Your Grave until 1980, when it was repurchased and then re-released through drive-ins. which I think the stipulation was whoever bought it could title it whatever they wanted, and they went with I Spit on Your Grave, which I think is better than Day of the Woman. I think it is a good. It definitely sounds like a revenge film, and definitely perfect for like a 70s exploitation film. Now, stars Camille Keaton, Aaron Taber, Richard Pace, Anthony Nichols. Cinematography was by Yuri Haviv. It was also edited by Zarchi. And it was made for $1.5 million, which even back then, I don't even see $1.5 million. I don't know how it would have cost that much. Apparently, Zarchi barely broke even because of all the marketing. And where this movie comes from was apparently back in 74, I think it was, Zarchi and his wife at the time, they were driving through New York. They saw this naked, bloody woman coming out of the bushes in a park. She had been beaten and raped. They dropped their daughter off. They decided to bring her to the police instead of the hospital so they could go out and get the attackers. And Zarchi was just completely repulsed by the way the officer handled it. Spending more time on formalities than actually trying to get actual information and trying to catch these guys. So Zarchi just wanted to make a movie that showed how ugly, nasty, and disgusting rape is, and just a movie about a woman that has gone through that ordeal and decides, not going to the police. I'm just going to handle it on my own. It gives the attackers their just desserts. I think part of that is missed because we don't ever see the character Jennifer Hills contemplate police or try to reach police. I mean, yeah, she does pick up the phone at one point, and the phone gets kicked away from her. I would say that's one thing that the remake has over it. The addition of the sheriff character, to show that she has to take matters into her own hands. Here is just more of kind of a metamorphosis, I guess, which is definitely something that this film lacks, and I'll talk about that when I get to this one, is that we actually are with her for weeks after her assault, and we see her go from this bloodied, bruised, battered woman who's sobbing and hurt, and we see her go through her rebirth and decide to take revenge. And this movie is noted for how about 25 to 30 minutes of its well, that just said 102, but this here says 100-minute runtime is her assault, which takes place over different areas. I mean, the story is you have Camille Keaton as Jennifer Hills. She's a short story writer going to write her first novel. She's rented a country house as some sort of writer's retreat. And some of the locals, one of which either works at and or runs a gas station, his two buddies, and the local Matthew. He's kind of a friend of theirs. He works at the grocery store. He's slow. He has some sort of mental handicap, which in this movie he just comes across as more dorky and awkward. Here, though, it's definitely evident that he has a handicap. Here is just like a more awkward Woody Allen. Which they all talk about the girl from New York, but like the character Johnny, who's like the leader, and Matthew have like harsh New York accents. It was filmed in New York too. It was filmed in the same area that Zarchi wrote it, which was uh, Kent, Connecticut, which is nearby the Housatonic River. So the house where uh, Jennifer stays to write, that's where Zarchi wrote the film. And in fact, the typewriter that Jennifer uses was the typewriter that Zarchi's wife would write out, would type out the script that Zarchi had written that day. She goes to the gas station. They flirt with her. You have Johnny, Andy, and Stanley. She orders some groceries. Matthew delivers them to her. They kind of talk and become friends. And from then on, I would say it starts out almost like they want to get Matthew laid. It's not quite like this one where, you know, the three guys want to feel slighted by her. Like, oh, what, she thinks she's too good for us? Well, let's go show her. Here, it's like they want to get Matthew laid, and by doing so, they all assault her. But it starts out with Andy and Stanley driving their boat by her house while she's in the hammock and just kind of doing circles. I guess trying to taunt her, annoy her, but also just keep watching her. Then eventually she's in a rowboat. They pull up, tie a rope to her, then they drag her out to a secluded area, or drag the boat out to a secluded area. And then for like 30 minutes, they just assault her. And now the character of Johnny, who, as I said, is the leader, he's played by Aaron Tamer. He's pretty much like store brand David Hess. He really is like a David Hess type character. Not just because, you know, he's the group leader. He's the one that, you know, is making everything happen. He even kind of looks like David Hess. Not as big or intimidating, but, you know, you can definitely tell they were going for a David Hess type look and character. Although, again, not near as intimidating. Doesn't quite have the same kind of presence. But, so they get her out in the woods. They tell Matthew, come on, do your thing. He doesn't want to. Johnny gets pissed, so he starts to rape her. And every time one gets finished, they let her get up, walk away a certain ways. Then they gang up on her again. Another one does it. Which, the second time, it's Andy. And the way he does it is just, I don't know what kind of direction he was given, but he's doing like a lot of like just weird kind of movements that don't make sense. It really just like you can tell he's doing it very violently. And again, the fact that they're out in the woods, there's no music, which I think even in the remake during the assault, there's not really any music either. But this doesn't have a score at all. The only time there's music is if someone plays a record or it's in the grocery store. And I do think that helps. That was something I didn't notice the first time I saw it. It was actually, I was watching something and it was mentioned how this didn't have a score. I was like, I didn't even notice it. So it kind of has like that effect like 1931's Dracula. You know, the complete lack of music does help the atmosphere. Eventually, she makes it back to her house. They're already there. I should have said this before. Some of this review is going to be graphic, so just bear with me. Finally, you know, they're passing her booze around. Andy is reading some of her manuscript, kind of making fun of it, kind of Clockwork Orangey. Matthew takes a swig, then he kind of does a little striptease, then he starts in on her. And you get this awkward angle, like way up close, while he's just like, but he says, you know, I, I can't finish with everyone around me. So then Stanley decides to get in on it, but he just tries to get her to blow it. So he yells at her like, "Suck it, bitch." But she's so beaten that she can't. So he just starts beating the hell out of her. And I will say, this is not the smartest group of guys. Because Johnny pulls Stanley off of her. They go to leave. And they send Matthew in to finish her off, to kill her. Johnny gives him his switchblade, tells him where to stab her. And why they would trust the mentally disabled guy of all of them to go in alone to do that, because it's pretty serious. But he goes in, he can't do it. So this is probably the smartest thing he does in the whole movie, the only thing that actually requires thought. He wipes the blade on an open wound to get blood on it so it looks like he did. They drive off, and we see her sort of regroup. We see her shower, get all the blood and mud off of her. We see her, we see her traumatized, all bruised. I do like the look of the makeup. It does look more realistic how they have cuts on top of bruises, and I thought it looked very convincing. It shows her in bed with a bunch of ice packs and towels and to sort of move. I don't think the pistol was there. When she first gets there, there's a pistol in the dresser. And she keeps going to look at it. And from then on, she starts wearing black. So kind of like a Hitchcock type thing where, the leader lady goes from good to bad. She starts wearing white to black. But, so from then on, the guys start to wonder how no one said anything, how there's nothing in the news, because it's hot out, it's been 2 weeks, no one knows anything. He sends Andy and Stanley to go by on the boat. They see her again, sitting on the bank by the house. They beat the hell out of Matthew for lying. And then she calls for some groceries. They send Matthew. He does bring a knife, but she's able to seduce him. Apparently her idea of revenge is to seduce him, let him have sex with her until he finishes, and while he's doing it, wrap a noose around his neck, and then, pull him up till he dies. I don't know why. I mean, it is as far-fetched as in, like, Last House on the Left, when Mrs. Collinwood blows the other guy until he finishes, then she bites his dick off. I guess she does feel some pity for him because, maybe he doesn't fully realize how wrong it is, or because he was forced to do it. Maybe she was like, okay, you can lose your virginity. I'm just going to kill you after. But that is the thing with this. The deaths are kind of lame. There isn't much to them. I'm not saying they have to be like elaborate, almost saw traps like this one. The only one that's actually effective would be Johnny's death, which we find out Johnny has a family, a wife and 2 kids, and the 2 kids are actually Zarchi's kids. Which I know that's supposed to add a layer of it being disturbing because you have this family man that is doing all this shit on the side, which I do think that would have been one thing that helped this film. Keep Johnny the family man, and then have that aspect of law enforcement remain in the sheriff character, So you have a sheriff and a family man in here instead of making the sheriff both. Because then you could have really made it seem like, you got law enforcement, you got this family guy that blends into society, and then the other three. Other than that, I don't really know why they added the sheriff, because there's 5 guys in that one. There's only 4 in this. I guess it was to show that, even law enforcement can be sick or you can't trust anyone. But yeah, I do think adding the idea that Johnny is a family guy, has kids, a trusting wife, it just does. It always makes it seem more disturbing when you have a rapist or killer or an evil person that does have this compartmentalized life. But Johnny is a moron because she pulls up to the gas station. He recognizes her. She nods for him to get in, and he does. He recognizes, okay, this is the girl that my friends and I raped. She just pulled up to my work, telling me to get in. She pulls over somewhere, draws a gun on him, tells him to strip, and he does. And not only that, and this actually is a good scene because you can literally see her adjusting her plan right there on the spot. Because I think it was supposed to play out like she was going to have him strip, then just shoot him. But the way he's talking to her, like, look, I'm just a guy. Like, yeah, I've got a wife, but, you come into the gas station, you're showing off your legs. Matthew brings you groceries, you got your tits hanging out, and then you're laying in your boat with a bikini, and then he calls her bait. Pretty much a victim blaming. And you can literally see her gears, like, stop, and, like, her hand goes limp, and he pulls the gun away from her. So you can literally see her, like, adjusting her plan. It's like, well, I was going to let you get off easy with the gunshot, but now that you're victim blaming, it's going to get a lot worse. And so he gets back in the car with her, goes back to her place. She draws a bath, and, he talks about how Matthew's been missing. No one knows where he is. She gets in the bathtub, starts, rubbing his shoulders and his chest, and then starts giving him a hand job under the water. And she says, "Oh, I killed him." He's like, "What? No, you didn't." "Yeah, I did. I strangled him." He's like, No. Keeps saying she has a weird sense of humor. She's going into detail. And, I mean, Matthew is a guy that is an accomplice in your horrific crime. The victim is still alive, and Matthew is missing. She's telling you that she killed him, and you're not believing it. I would say this is the most effective death because it's all done, again, without music. Without any kind of effects other than blood. You don't see a wound. You don't see the severed prosthetic. It's all just done with, like, the motions of the actors and what they do after. And I think that's plenty effective. She reaches over, grabs the knife, goes under the water. She's still giving him a hand job. And just as she, like, goes like that, he, like, jumps. So it's like, even though you don't see what's going on, you can tell that's where it is. And again, you don't see a wound. You don't see the severed dick. And I know some people have complained about how he didn't feel it. Because he's like, oh, it feels so good, it hurts. It is known that if a knife is sharp enough and you cut fast enough, you can lose parts without feeling it. Because then he's just sitting there. Again, it's like a bubble bath. And it's not until the blood starts spurting out does he realize what's going on. And I do enjoy the slow realization, like, oh oh God, oh God. I do like that. And I do like the look of just how dark red this blood is to show that there's a lot of it. So he gets up. It again, it's impactful enough just knowing that the way he jerks and the way she just goes like that at the same time, all implied, and it still works. I would say it's more like effective as or more than anything in this. And then I love how she just goes downstairs, puts on a record, she locks him in the bathroom, and just sits there and listens to him scream and bleed out. And then even more so, I love the look of the dead body. Like you see him kind of crumpled up at the bottom of the basement stairs, pale as shit. The dark red blood all over him. One is a great contrast, but to show he's completely drained and dead, just how pale he is. And so then we see Johnny's wife get pissed at Andy and Stanley because Johnny never showed up. They decide to... They know that she's behind it because now Matthew and Johnny's missing. And I would say this part of the film is the most, like, alright, come on. And this is a movie with a 30-minute scene of just assault. Granted, the assault is in all these different places. It does move along, but the scene with her just toying with them in the boat, it is the most like, alright, come on. Which, the first couple times I saw this, I did think it had pacing issues. But just now rewatching it, I thought it went by at a fair pace. I would actually say this one's slower. I would say this one takes longer to get to it. It takes longer to get to the revenge. But, at first, Andy grabs an axe. He's up on the shore to look for her. Stanley's in the boat. She sneaks up on him, swims, hops in the boat, pushes him out. And then she just starts toying with him, driving in circles the way they did with her when she was trying to relax. Eventually, Andy runs in the water with the axe, and you get this hilarious scene where it's her POV, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill him." And the boat just barely misses him, but it's he's trying to act with the boat because he doesn't swing. It's like he's trying to move out of the way. But the boat falls in the axe falls in the boat. He goes to try to save Stanley, but if she comes, he just drops him. And you do get this very low budget latex effect when she just comes up and slams the axe into his back. And then finally she kills the engine right by Stanley. He grabs onto it. He's like, "Come on, it was all Johnny." And then she just says, "Suck it, bitch." Fires it up, and you get the idea. He's all chewed up. He goes down, and then it just ends on the shot of her kind of smiling as she drives the boat away. As the credits roll. Probably my favorite shot of the film is when she's burning Johnny's clothes. It's this is this angle that's looking up and kind of crooked as she stands there. So it's like you're looking up at her, but whenever she throws his clothes in the fireplace, there's this glow of red on her, and I just think that looks really cool. But yeah, that's the original I Spit on Your Grave, originally titled Day of the Woman. I can definitely see why this was so controversial when it first came out. Roger Ebert famously called it a vile pile of garbage or something like that, or a vile piece of garbage. I think he even said it was the most... Sitting through this movie was the most miserable experience of his life. A lot of people have said that there's no merit to it. Zarchi's been very outspoken about how I don't care if critics don't like it. I'm making it for the public to show them how ugly and nasty rape is. As if we don't already know. But, and, you know, it's no wonder it was on the Video Nasty list. I mean, it was on there with Last House on the Left. Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything else I could say about it that hasn't been said already. I mean, you're either gonna love or hate this film. Uh, I don't hate it. I definitely. It certainly does feel like 70s. It is one of those movies that no matter how much you clean it up, it's gonna look like a 70s exploitation, you know, grindhouse drive-in movie, which, you know, I am a sucker for that. Some of the creative choices, like, yeah, I love the idea of there being no score. Uh, I I love the execution of Johnny's death. You know how it's all implications, but it's very effective. I do like how we actually follow Jennifer Hills through this metamorphosis of victim to heroine, which again is something that this film completely lacked. And the lack of music does create this good atmosphere. I mean, whether she's just resting in the hammock or it's the scenes of her attack out in the woods, it has this atmosphere with the birds chirping, and you know, the complete lack of sound adds to the realism of the atmosphere. Again, yeah, this probably, I know a lot of people say it's not supposed to be entertaining, it's supposed to be grisly and shocking. That I get. Uh, it's kind of weird to talk about these films because you can't really say I enjoyed it. Well, I guess you can. It just sounds weird. I would say as a movie, as a whole, I do enjoy this more than the original Last House on the Left. It does have its scenes where it's like, alright, come on. Like, all the scenes with the boat, whether it be when they're taunting her or when she's taunting them. Matthew did come across as more just an awkward dork than someone with a disability. Yeah, Johnny did feel very kind of like a ripoff of David Hess rather than being his own kind of character. But I see what Zarchi was going for. I definitely respect this film for what it is, which is one of the classic, controversial, cult classic, controversial films of the 70s, of the Video Nasties. Uh, you know, definitely one of the top tier of Video Nasties, as far as ones that did deserve to be on the list. Yeah, I'm not really sure what else I can say about this. But, yeah, I don't have the 80s sequel to that. But I do have all three of the reboot series. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the remake, then I'm going to do 3, and then 2. Because these actually go together. This is more of a standalone film. I don't remember a damn thing from this. And then at some point, I'll get Deja Vu. So, I hope you enjoyed my review of the original I Spit on Your Grave. Stay tuned for the remake and sequels, and thank you for watching.